Hi, it's Darren from SimNation again. Just continuing the video series. Today we're going to talk about defensive game planning. So one of the things about defensive game planning is in offense, it's important to know your opponent, but you can actually get away with not knowing your opponent and still doing really well. I'll use Gary as an example. Gary sets his playbooks well in advance at the beginning of the season, and then just does minute adjustments where he's not really changing what he does. He's just maybe tweaking it a little bit to make it a little bit more efficient for the opponent he's playing. Versus you have someone like Peter who will probably change his whole playbook. On defense, it does really matter what your opponent is doing because if you don't understand that, and you go in with a run defense and they're going to throw the ball, you're probably not going to get the result you're looking for. So for this one, I think understanding your opponent's offense is critical in order to be able to build the right defense. Now, whenever you play the CPU is pretty vanilla. It's easy to guess whether they're running or passing. And generally speaking, if all they're doing is throwing the ball, you'll be able to choose pass defenses the whole time. If they're running a more balanced approach, normally they're running what I call the RPP type thing, which is saying that first and 10 is a run, first and short is a run, first and medium is a pass, first and long is a pass, and then of course you do RPP after that, and that's your defense. Now, some CPU does run balanced. Those are traditionally the ones where there was a human at one time in charge of it. So to me, when I look at this, if I see someone is largely running the ball less than 40% of the time, I view that as a run defense that I should be engaging. If I see someone is um, kind of running and passing the ball more than 60%, then I view that as it's a pass defense. And then in the middle, I have a balanced defensive book, which will account for both run and pass. And traditionally, my balanced defensive playbook is my run defense and my pass defense plays in the same book. And it just makes it easier for me. Defense is something I pride myself on in this league. It's something I'm actually pretty good at. It wouldn't show in my preseason, of course, because maybe I wasn't as good with that. But I think the first thing is get to know your opponent. So I mentioned in a previous video, I'm not going to do Cleveland. Cleveland is a human opponent. Just not going to do, especially with this video, because I would give everybody and their mother a roadmap to beat BioEagle. I'm going to focus on Buffalo, and yes, you can make the argument that I'm telling everyone in the league how to beat Buffalo, and you're probably right. Now, the first thing I've noticed about Buffalo, and I've already looked at this stuff so that way I don't have to go through and do it, is when you're doing a defense, there's a couple different ways to build your defense. The first thing is you need to understand what they're doing. So you're looking at the plays to see what plays they were successful with or what plays they're calling and getting a good idea of what they're actually doing. So dive lefts, so these are inside runs right here. These are outside runs. We'll talk about passing in a minute. Draw is a draw. It's its own style, right? Counters are balanced. Pitches are outside. So what you're seeing is they're running a pretty wide amount of run plays. So they're not locking in on one type of run. So what I would say is look at the ones that are doing the best, and that's the ones you need to negate. Now, pass plays, you can get a good idea of what they're up to. A skinny post is a medium pass. Tight end deep out is a balanced. I think this is medium if I remember correctly. Ends are traditionally medium or long. So you can start to get an idea of what they're actually throwing. And then the key here is because on the strategy page, it's first and 10, first and short, first and medium, first and long, and then second and short, second medium, second long, so on and so forth, right? You need to understand what they're essentially calling on the different downs. And the easiest way to do this is look hill. So what you see is On first down, they're pretty balanced. On second down, by the way, I treat RPOs as runs. So on the second down, they're kind of a little bit run heavy. Third down, they're a little bit pass heavy. So that starts to give me an idea of what I want to look at. The other way to do it is you can actually look at the plays they were calling and do a tick mark system to say, okay, they were running hill, they were passing hill, they were running hill. And that'll get you a lot better data. And I actually did that for this, so I have a good idea of what they're doing. The other thing I want to look at is the roster. Last time we looked at the defense. This time we'll look at the offense. So we'll check on starters, and then we'll look at the quarterback. So Benjamin Antonio, he's got a great arm. He's pretty smart. He's got good accuracy. This is a good quarterback, by the way. Um, so based on what I think I saw about them previously, is they run a lot of balanced. They don't throw long as much as I think that they should with Benjamin Antonio. If this was a human, I would say that they should be using that 98 arm by throwing the ball long or throwing it medium. They shouldn't be throwing short, although he can do short too, which is, I think, one of the reasons why you see the CPU changing it up and not playing one style of pass to where you could lock on and say they're only throwing the ball medium, they're only throwing the ball long, they're only throwing the ball short. Running back wise, Lee's is a outside runner, and he's a good inside runner. This is a back that actually allows you to play pretty much any run play that you want to run. So it's going to be a little bit of a problem. He's got a good fullback. The guards, let's start with the tackles actually. So tackle wise, as I start to think about this, his tackles are strong, so I'm not going to bull rush them. Agility's fine, though speed sucks, and they're not really good against the pass, but they're good against the run. So what I want to make sure is I have speed and agi rushers going after them. So just keep that in the back of your mind. On the guard side, same thing here is these aren't really great linemen from terms of pass blocking, so I'll be able to mess with them quite a bit. But whatever side Orr is on, and just make sure he's out, so they're going to be playing someone else. Let's take this off for a second. So oh, he only has two. Okay. So there's going to be a lot of unknown here. But again, not strong, so I can bull rush with a defensive tackle because I have defensive tackles who are stronger. Center wise, this is a good center. I'm not going to bull rush him. Remember this, dude. So I need to attack him with speed. And this is a guy who you can actually run the ball up the middle quite a bit off of it because he's got all the right skills to do it. So I need to make sure that whenever I'm playing 3-4, I have a very strong and agile defensive tackle in. Wide receiver wise, nothing here skills me from a cornerback perspective. None of them are fast. Agi wise, I need to watch out for Hog, but outside that, it's not a matchup issue for me. Same thing with tight ends. I do need to keep an eye on Craig because he is really agile, which means he'll be great in the short game. But I'm not really worried about his offense from my defensive perspective. So I pretty much think I know what I need to know about them. And what I need to start focusing on is myself. So, what am I good at? So, Pittsburgh has a lot of depth in its defense. It's built around its defense. So, I can actually compensate for a lot of what I saw, though. So, what we're going to do is we're going to go defense. We're going to look at what I have. I have some injuries I'm going to have to keep in the back of my mind. But what I said originally was from an end perspective, I was just going to speed rush. I wasn't going to try to bull rush. By the way, bull rushing requires more strength. In Agi, speed rushing is more about speed. So I probably have two of the faster linemen in the league. So I'm going to go Pacheco and Perry. I'm not going to change that. Defensive tackle, I got to deal with some pretty strong interior linemen. So I'm probably going to go with I'm going to go with Catalino and Baines. Ideally, I would put Baines Hill because I want him to play nose tackle whenever I'm in, and now let Wade Miller be the backups. Because I think he's going to run the ball a lot, I need to make sure I have a pretty good run defense. So run defense from a linebacker perspective means more strength and agi and tackle than speed, tackle, and agi. So what I want to focus on is ensuring that I have the right people in the place. So if we look at strength, my linebacker core is not very strong. So I want to have good tacklers too. So I'm probably going to put Pruitt in the middle. Where normally I put him on the outside. I'm probably going to have Bray. Oh, I'm going to put Bray on the outside, so he's on the. Put him on this side. I want him on the strong side, not the weak side. And I talked about this in a different video. Left outside linebacker lines up on against the right side of the offense, so that's the strong side. Right outside linebacker lines up against the left side, which is the weak side. So if I think he's running a lot to the left, I'm going to want to put someone more on the right that can handle it. Man, I really don't have a lot of strength, so I'm going to have to focus on tackling. We'll put McIntyre or Hill. So, and then Hill, I'm just going to put Doherty because he's got high agility. And that would be my starters. I'm not going to mess with the backups right now. Cornerback wise, I need to have people who can cover. I don't have a speed problem against him. I pretty much have him covered. So I'm just going to go with Speidenberg. And then on the nickel side, he does go out of shotgun. Riley, of course, is hurt, so that's going to hurt me a little bit. But I'm probably going to go Flores because I don't have to worry about speed. I can just have my best people playing. And then I'm probably going to go Travis. And then I'm not going to change. Well, actually, I'll put Ashbury in because I want someone more in the box. And Ashbury is he's got better agility. He's stronger. He's a better tackler. And he's a better safety. Strong safety, Taylor is a box safety, so I'm not worried about that. And that's kind of what my defense would look like. Now, this kind of gets back to as we look into the strategy about what I'm going to do. Is generally speaking, I have 3 run plays. I have a B, which is balanced, or R, which is run, a P, which is P. I mentioned before my B playbooks are really a combination of my R and P. So a lot of people ask me, is there a difference with what you choose? Well, if you're going up against a run team, you want to make sure that you build your defensive playbook based on the players you have. So if you have depth, you can get away with a 5-2. But I traditionally don't run a lot of 5-2. I run more 4-3 or 3-4. But again, it's based on the fact that I know I have 4 good linemen who can either defend against the run or defend against the pass. I know I have at least 4 good linebackers who can defend against the run, defend against the pass. And then, of course, if I need to play against the pass, I'm going to drop into dime and nickels where I need to have roughly about 6 good defensive backs. So in this case, I think the pattern that I saw when I watched the game was first down, he's doing a lot of balanced. So that's 40 to 60% running or passing. So he's not showing an inclination towards one or the other. Second down, he's definitely running the ball a lot. So I'm just going to choose R. And then again, I noticed that this was a B. This was a B based on me watching the game. Again, a B, which means he's showing that he's running the ball 40 to 60% of the time. which means that there's not a strong enough trend to convince me to go into a run defense only. So I think this was B. I think this was B. Which tells me at one time Buffalo had a human head coach. Because this isn't normal for the CPU. This is a B, and oops, this should be a pass based on what I saw because he was going over 60. BB, we'll just leave that alone. We're gonna ignore that. I'm just gonna let them play. Some people ask me all the time why I do the ignore on goal line, end of half, game winning, losing. Is if my defense is being successful when on normal plays and normal times, I'm not going to change it up based on goal line. I'm not going to change it up based on me winning or losing because the defense is being successful. I don't want to play with it. Now, blitz percentages. A lot of people ask me about this. If it's a run-based defense that you're running, you want to blitz less than 25% of the time. And this is just my internal things. These are things I've been successful with. If it's a balanced, you want to blitz less than 50. So some place between 25 to 50. Could go to 60 depending on how often you think they're throwing. Passing, I traditionally do 75% and up. Because of Pittsburgh's defense, I tend to do 99. Now, you won't see that here because I was in preseason. I'm not trying to give anything away. We talked about game planning before. Again, the difference is aggressive means that they're going to go more blitzing. They are going to take a more aggressive stance in coverage. Balance means they're going to kind of balance it out. Conservative means that they're going to blitz less often and they're going to play back or play in zone or prevent a lot of times. Again, here you can set this to say what you want to do. If you're not sure about what an opponent's actually going to do, or you think that they're going to do a lot of balance plays, you can choose balance or you can choose not set. Primary coverage, again, if you have plays that have zone and they're successful, run zone. If you have plays that are man and they're successful, let them be man. If the plays show mixed coverage and they're successful, choose mixed. Otherwise, choose not set. Again, here is if you know you're going up against somebody who's throwing the ball a lot, you want to pass rush them in coverage. If they're running the ball a lot, run support. In run support. If they're doing mixed, you want to say, okay, my line is going to be much better at rushing, but my linebacker is going to be much better at run support, so I do that. And then, of course, what you do is you can choose mixed here if you just want it to play off mixed, or you can choose none and just let the coordinator choose whatever play. Player radio should generally be your person who is the smartest on the field and knows the position the best. So always choose that person. This one, if you're playing against a passing game, someone who passes a lot, so think like DP in the New York Jets and WWPF, you would select this on because you always want to make sure you have enough cornerbacks on the field to match the wide receivers. If they're not throwing the ball a lot or they're balancing, you don't want to do that. Aligned man coverage, I tend to choose Neville, but I will change it based on if I think that I need to focus really more my cornerback one on wide receiver one, my cornerback two on wide receiver two. But generally, I don't do that. I focus my cornerback one on wide receiver, or my cornerback two on left wide receiver. So as I watch the games, I figure out who they are, and then I do it that way. It's just something that's worked for me. A lot of times I play auto, but you can choose a specific person here if you want to. Preparation, I've talked about this before. If you have the staff and they have more than 3 stars in preparation, 3 or more stars, you can click this and let them handle the prep. If they have less than 3 stars, don't do it. It's going to end badly for you. Try to figure out the type of plays that they're running a lot by looking at the playbook and then choose the appropriate one. In this case, I think what I saw was they were doing a lot of outside running, but a lot of times I'll just choose long passing because I want to take away the long pass. And then the same with defense is if, so running a lot of zone, choose zone. If they're running a lot of man, do man. Otherwise, just do blitz. Playbooks, we talked about this a little bit. I'll show a little bit of this because I don't use this playbook anymore. But essentially, as you can see, these things are telling me differently what's happening. So if I know someone's playing a lot of in, I want to have as many bodies inside as I can to try to force a interception. If they're playing outside or throwing outside a lot, I want to make sure that I have people who are dropping back, and I want to have the safeties in deep coverage. Um, so one thing I'll tell you is get to learn the symbols. Symbols matter, tell you what the person is actually doing. And if ever you're not sure, one way to do it is go to custom playbook, choose a new defensive play, and then what you can do is like this one, say, okay, what's a deep zone look like? That's a deep zone. What's zone look like? That's a zone. What does cover look like? That's cover. And it just gives you a good idea to do this. And hook is that. Zone rush looks like that. And double cover looks like that. So cover and double cover really you can't see. And then of course blitz is that. A flat is just meaning they're moving to the side. And then of course rush looks like that, which is a blitz, by the way. So um, that's kind of the defense side of the ball. I think one of the biggest things just to realize is that the computer will largely show its tendency quite easily. Humans will do things to throw you off, and the biggest way that they do it is by changing this. Um, the other thing to remember about percentages um, is that just because it says I am going to run the ball, my run rate is set to 40, which means I'm going to run the ball like 60% of the time, doesn't mean that that is going to happen 60% of the time. There's a 60% chance that my coordinator is going to call a run play. But there are some games where you are like, wait a second, I had it set to 60% and I threw the ball 80%. If you don't want that, you've got to lower that percent. So if you set 10, you have a better chance of having 70 to 80% of your plays be run plays. Again, it's like a dice is being rolled, right? That determines it. So when you roll the dice, in theory, that it should show up as run that many times, but it's not always going to work out that way. So I hear a lot of people say, Darren, I set it to 40 just like you do, and I threw the ball more than I ran the ball. Well, again, 40 is close to 50, right? So that's the reason why you're throwing the ball more than running the ball. If you don't want to throw the ball, either set it to 1, which means that you're going to throw the ball maybe 10 times out of 60 plays, or set it to a lower number, like around 30 or less, which will ensure that you're generally running the ball more than you're passing. Same thing for defense. Just because you set it to 99 doesn't mean that you're not going to have plays where they don't blitz at all. Um, defense to me is always matchup. So just make sure that as you're going through it, you're thinking about, well, this lineman's really strong, but he's kind of slow. I'm going to speed rush him. This lineman's really weak, but he's very fast. I'm going to bull rush him. These guys, he likes throwing to his running backs out of the backfield, which means my linebackers need to be able to cover those running backs. He likes to throw long, which means my cornerbacks need to have more speed than agility, versus they're going to throw short, they need to have more agility than speed. So that's kind of how you do defensive game planning. Playbook wise, I'll tell you, if you're looking for something, I think, let me see about this one. I'm not a big fan of 3-3-5s in general. They will work. The problem I have with the 3-3-5 is you have 3 linemen and 3 linebackers. They line up over each other largely. So you're not getting really great penetration to the outside. So if they run outside, you're largely going to get screwed unless the cornerbacks are good tacklers. Whereas a 3-4, if you choose a wide or an oval, it generally will look better. Over traditionally, by the way, is over the tight end. Under is guarding against the weak side. Um, and then B is just the base package. So I think to me, I like nickel, I like dime against the pass. As you can see, I'll do a lot of Tampa twos, which means that in general, um, I have a lot of people playing in coverage. Uh, from a run defense, I like 3-4, 4-3. I will do 5-2 if it's pedal, because I need to be able to do that. But again, it comes back to the personnel you have. This year, I'm not carrying as many defensive tackles as I normally do, which means that I can't really get away with a 5-2 because 3 of the 5 defensive linemen are defensive tackles. So I would just say whenever you're building your defense, find the plays that work. And I'm trying my best not to show you all my playbooks, by the way. I don't know how well that's going to work. But if I was looking, let's just say this was it, and I don't use this one either. So traditionally, run plays, I want it less than 3 or really less than 3.5. Pass plays, I want it less than 6. Um, so DB cover 3, I'd keep that. DB zones, I might chuck that on it because out of 5 times it's done, 2 times have been touchdown. This is a good play. I'd keep this. Let me see if I have one of these I know I'm not using anymore. Maybe this one. So like I would keep this one because 0 yards. This is a run playbook. This is not good, so I'd remove this. And so each week what you're doing is you're looking at your playbooks and you're adjusting it. I know people ask me all the time about frequency and percent. I run mine as 1. It doesn't mean you have to. You can do the 3 to 5. But I think the key is just whatever the playbook is you're doing is think about the reason why you're doing it. If they're running a lot to the strong side, you want to use overs. If they're running a lot to the weak side, you want to use unders. If they're running a lot just outside on both sides, you want to use wide formations. And you can see that here. So like 3-4, like I'm not, by the way, I'm not advocating tango. It's like one of the worst ones in the playbook. But what you can see here is you have pretty good coverage on both sides. Again, bear in mind that if you're running a 3-4, the defensive tackle in the middle needs to be pretty strong or pretty fast. Whereas the benefit of running a 4-3 is you have 4 down linemen as opposed to just 3, which in theory means that all but one of the offensive linemen is being checked by a defensive person. And then, of course, the linebackers, traditionally your middle linebacker, you want to be your best tackler, your best agility. Your outside linebackers, you traditionally want to make sure they have speed so they can cover. So that's it for this video. Hopefully you find this meaningful. I know I rambled a little bit, but this is a pretty hard topic to talk about. But I think, again, just like with the offense, is you need to know your opponent, understand what plays are running, the frequency that they're running those plays. So like on first down, are they doing run or pass? Treat the RPO as a run. Then you need to align. You're either going to say, I do what I do very well, and I'll use a case of Maryland in the SNCFL. I don't care whether you're passing or running. I will probably always do an RPP approach. Well, on first and 10 and first and short, I'm always guarding against the run, or I'm guarding against a balance playbook, which is what I do at Maryland, by the way. Is first and 10, first and short is always a balanced playbook. And then the medium and long, I'm playing pass coverage. But my pass playbooks have good run plays in them so that if you do catch me where you run the ball, then I have playbooks that actually will help me though. The other thing is just as you're play calling, make sure that you're thinking through your strategy screens and you're really focused on uh, what is the person doing. And if you're not sure, use not set. If you are sure, like you know they're gonna pass, you know they're gonna go long a lot, and you got the guys who can play man, and it actually would hurt you to play zone. Do man, and then if you know they're passing the ball all the time, pass rush them. You probably want to keep that as coverage. and then make sure this is the smartest guy. And if they're running a lot of shotguns and spreads, it's a good idea to check this because it ensures that you're always getting cornerbacks on the field. And then again, prep, figure out what type of passing they're doing. And this is just a passing example, what type of running they're doing, and then prep for it. So that's it for now. Hopefully you find this useful. If you want me to cover a different topic, let me know. But I will go through building an extensive playbook in a future video. I realize I kind of kept these a little bit short, but they're already at 30 minutes. I don't want to go longer.